This video is about teamwork. These were skills that Birthing Better mothers and fathers developed. Some of the skills came from an individual birth. Others came from just the collective of what we were seeking as the skills were developing in the early 1970s. And that was at a time where Lamaze classes were probably taught in most hospitals in the United States, and Bradley classes were available as well. In New Zealand, Grantley de Greed was primarily taught, and then eventually Lamaze was taught much later on. So Bradley method was called husband or father to coach childbirth. Lamaze was called prophylactic childbirth, at which we were all going, what's that? So it was Lamaze. That was the name of an obstetrician, as Bradley or Grantley de Greed was. But the emphasis was on fathers coaching. And why was that? Women didn't want to be left alone to discover birth by themselves. Our parents had, our grandparents had, people before us had. We wanted help. And we knew that our care providers were not the people to help us. And we wanted our husbands or others to be with us when we did this amazingly dynamic and dramatic, life-transforming event, activity. Previously, fathers had sat in the waiting room or gone to the bar and handed out cigars. But that often left them feeling isolated and removed from their newborns. And times were changing in the United States in the 70s, and we wanted closer families. So we really wanted to work together. And Lamaze and Bradley gave us that. It gave us that to such a heightened level that it changed the obstetrical nurses and obstetricians in hospitals throughout the United States. They loved seeing and being with skilled families. They just loved it. And because they saw us coping better, often the policies in the hospitals began to change, and that was exciting. So the teamwork is about working together, and Lamaze and Bradley gave us the how to work together as a team. The skills were sort of immature. They weren't adjustable, adaptable, and sustainable, and the skills for fathers weren't very sophisticated. So Birthing Better families set to, and we developed more skills. We totally lacked choices then. And it's curious because the teamwork that we developed in the 70s stopped in the 1980s. Because the message of the 70s was go to the Lamaze and Bradley classes, and the message in the 80s was get information about the pros and cons of medical interventions, write a birth plan, tell your care providers what kind of birth you want, expect them to try to give you that, and fathers shouldn't coach. They should just support women's choices. And that's where we are today. So we don't have a lot of teamwork in childbirth. Men can often be there, but they're not working with us. And supporting is not the same as helping. And coaching is not telling a woman what to do. Rather, it's helping a woman cope better, manage better, work through, deal with, handle, stay on top of, and feel in control. And when you share skills together that are adjustable, adaptable, and sustainable, then you can work together very intimately in this team. But we had to develop more skills. And in Birthing Better, the biggest set of skills that we developed around teamwork was nonverbal and verbal communication. Being in a team is also what's in your own head as a woman during the birth, because we can have very conflicting thoughts going through our head as this activity is unfolding and happening to us. So we had to learn to split our brain between the yak and the managing part of ourselves. And it turned out that was quite easy. We just needed to fill the managing part with lots of skills that we could pick and choose from at the time. And we could just accept the yak part as a normal reaction to what was happening, and we could apply responsive skills at the same time. Teamwork was what was happening with our husband or other, so that they were really clear about what we needed or wanted. In other words, we developed nonverbal communication with them as well. For instance, if our partner touched us and we didn't want them to, shaking your head no was much better than screaming at them, get your effing hand off me. But once they got their effing hand off of you, or even if they got their hand off of you because you shook your head, how did they know when to put their hand back on you? We had to learn to either nod or take their hand and put it where we wanted. That developed teamwork through better communication and better touch skills. Look, birth is going to happen to you one way or another, and it doesn't mean you know how, and it's going to unfold in ways you don't expect. And your body is going to take over. But without shared skills, it's hard to have good teamwork. And without your own skills, because you are in a team with your baby, it is really hard for you to respond on a moment-to-moment basis rather than just get carried away and react. We do the birth. If we are alone doing the birth, we're still having a teamwork experience with our baby. And that is being shown through our contractions. So we had to develop skills to make certain that our contractions were effective. And that meant really paying more attention to the positions we were in. And many of the positions that are advocated today actually aren't effective in birth. And that's hard to help people understand. Let me go through 3 of them quickly. One is walk. Well, for many women and everybody in the world, when we walk, we're tightening up our bum muscles. That makes it harder for some babies to move down through and out. Squatting, we're told to squat. But if we squat with our knees out to the side, like that, that contracts the muscles that run from the bones we sit on to our sacrum, and that stops our sacrum from moving. So if we're going to squat, we need to bring our knees in a line with the front, or drop one knee down with one knee up and be asymmetrical in our pelvis. Another position is hands and knees. When that first became popular, for us as Birthing Better Families, we just didn't understand that one at all. That was because hands and knees dropped your baby down to the ground and it deflexed your baby's head. And they were experiencing a lot of major tears in that position. But one more position. When I gave birth in 1970, you lay on your back, put your feet up in stirrups. And a lot of people said that's not a gravity position. That's true. But if you lie on your back with your feet up like that, your pelvis is very open, whether you're in a gravity position or not. And your baby wants your pelvis to be open. So the advocacy was to get us sitting, which was called a semi-recumbent position. We sat on our sacrum with our knees bent on the bed. But that blocked the sacrum, and that was the bone the baby needs to push out in order to come around the pubic bone to come towards our vagina. So many of the positions that are advocated now could possibly hamper your labor. Even leaning forward, if your baby doesn't like it, the labor contractions will go off. They won't have that strong peak. So when we're developing teamwork and our partner can hear that our contraction's starting, it's going up, it has a strong peak, it's going away, and they can hear the difference between it starting, it's going up, and then it just sort of plateaus and goes away, they can hear that. They can hear how we're responding. And they can help us by even asking, are you in the best position? And there are times when women go, the position I'm in is giving me more rest between contractions. That's good for the woman, but it's stalling the birth. It's better to have skills to deal with a progressive labor than to try to back it off. So we as a woman, if we were birthing on our own, are in a team with our baby. So we want to have effective contractions. If we are having a planned cesarean, we're still doing the activity with our baby. And that means we can use skills on the way to the hospital while being prepped and during surgery, because this is our baby's birth. And we want to experience teamwork with our baby and with our family who is going to be with us, because that teamwork, as it grows in birth, is going to grow after the birth as we parent. For a man, teamwork is with the woman. There is no care provider ever in the 50 years that I've been involved in birth who has ever said to a father or other, you cannot help her. They've all loved it. They wished more had skills. You have a relationship with both your baby and the mother. And what did fathers in the 70s get really clear about? You do not want a pissed off woman after the birth, because that can last throughout your relationship and damage it. You want her to be saying to you, you were great. I couldn't have done it without you. She could have, she would have, but she's telling you something. She's talking to you about teamwork. And you, as a human being and as a man or an other, you want to feel confident with your baby without any gaps. You want to take pride in helping because you can see and hear when a woman is coping well and managing well. So you want to develop that teamwork. And birthing better skills are always about teamwork, whether they are preparing the body. The woman can do all the skills on your body. You have the same body. It's all about working together for a singular event that is so huge, it changes your life forever. We used to equate it to climbing Mount Everest, but you couldn't practice beforehand. Would you work as a team? You bet you would. And when fathers were told not to coach in the 80s, this was devastating to families, and it has to be corrected. So when you think about the team, it's you as a woman with your baby, and it's you with another who's there. And no birth provider's ever going to stop you. And you can have more than one coach. Just learn the same skills together. So do you have a team with your birth provider? Yes, they may not have a partnership with you, but you have one with them. They do their work, and you do your work. You should all have the appropriate skills for the task and the job in your role. And here's the secret. When you are coping better, they are easier to talk to because they don't want to see you suffer. So when you are behaving as though you are suffering, they don't regard your words as clearly as when you are coping and managing well. So if you look and hear stressed, they want to reduce your suffering. And if it is the medical profession, they are going to use medical pain relief. And if it is a midwife, is she going to use anything? Or does she feel it's okay? Whatever you're feeling is okay. And is that okay? Maybe, but think about it. Do you want to suffer and be stressed during the birth of your baby? If not, learn and use skills and do that in teamwork with your baby and whoever else is there. Now, if you're birthing without another person you know and all you have are care providers, then teach them the skills that you need them to help you use. Some of them will do that. Others don't want to. That's not their role. That's not their task. That's not their job. So sometimes, for those of us who have birthed on our own, we just have to become a team with our baby and work with our baby's efforts to come out of our body.